So it is officially 2017, and I didn't get any books for Christmas, but I did pick up some books for myself over Christmas and over the month of December. Unfortunately, a lot of the books that I picked up over Christmas, I left them at my parents' house because I could not fit them into my luggage. I sorted through a lot of the books that I had left at my parents' house and took about 20 to a local used bookstore and traded them in for $54 worth of credit. And I came out with maybe 10 books, 8 or 10 books. And I did bring a couple of them back here to Ottawa with me. I was quite pleased to get my own copy of Force of Circumstance by Simone de Beauvoir. I had actually just finished reading this a few days before I picked up this old paperback copy. I was reading a library edition, so it's nice to have my own copy. And I set things too far out of reach, but okay, books. I also found at that used bookstore a copy of She Came to Stay in this delightful green edition. It's a Flamingo book, not a publisher that I'm especially familiar with, but I do like the cover. I do like having my own copy because once again I read this in a library edition. Well, I was at my parents' house as well. I had maybe 50 other books that I didn't think were good enough to trade in for store credit. So I took them to a nearby Value Village, and they were doing a kind of promotional offer where when you donated things, you got a voucher for a free book. So I went in with my voucher and I found this, a copy of The Plague by Camus. It is a modern library edition from 1948, I believe. 1948, first printing. It's kind of delicate. I did start reading it a bit on the train on my way back to Ottawa 2 days ago, but I didn't get that far in because I read Kafka's The Trial first, and by the time I got into this, I was about 25 pages in, and I was almost back in Ottawa. Also picked up this when I was back at my parents' place, Why I'm Not a Christian by Bertrand Russell. I did read a little bit of Russell in my undergrad, not for any class in particular, but just because I wanted to read him. His name did, of course, come up in course material, but I never read a complete book of his. So I thought this was pretty interesting, $8, nice cover. Then I was in the lovely city of Guelph, Ontario, visiting a friend over the Christmas break. And we stopped into the Bookshelf, which is a great new bookstore. They sell new books, a great bookstore and cafe. And I came out with some Nietzsche, Twilight of the Idols and the Antichrist. I have never read anything by this author, but I thought it was high time I give him a try. So this is a Penguin Classics edition, $17 Canadian, not a bad price overall. Then I have a couple books here that I actually bought before I left Ottawa in December. Simone de Beauvoir, big surprise here. Adieu, A Farewell to Sartre. And I believe this is something that she wrote after the death of Sartre, her longtime life partner. And I have not started reading it yet. And one final book, I kind of bought it on a whim, also here in Ottawa. It is called The Shouting Sign Painters by Malcolm Reed, a literary and political account of Quebec revolutionary nationalism. And I do believe this was published in either the 60s or the 70s. I believe it was the 60s. Proportions, published in the 60s. This particular book, 1972. On the back it says that Malcolm Reed was born in Ottawa in 1941. He grew up in English in a civil service and CCFF, the Canadian Social Democratic Party, family at McGill University in Montreal. He spent his time at the McGill Daily and the Socialist Society. 3 jobs helped him learn French. Steamship publicity man, Woolworth stockboy, government clerk. He began reporting with the Sherbrooke Daily Record in Sherbrooke, Quebec, then moved to the Canadian Press News Agency in Montreal. He quit to write this report in 1965. He had friends in both the English-speaking New Left of Canada and the Nationalist Left in Quebec. He met his wife during work on the Shouting Sign Painters. They live in Quebec City, where Mr. Reed reports for the Toronto Globe and Mail. So I think it will be fairly interesting historical read, and I'm looking forward to it when I finally get through the big stack of library books I have in the corner over there.